Welcome to the deep dive. If you've been keeping an eye on the technical forums lately, your feed is likely, well, blowing up right now. Today is October 16th, 2025, and even though Google hasn't made the big official announcement yet, the notifications hitting premium users seem to confirm it. Gemini 3.0 Pro is here. And the chatter isn't just calling it an update, they're calling it a quantum leap, something that could fundamentally rewrite how we interact with tech. But, there's always immense hype around these things layered over some, let's say, specific but unverified technical claims. So our mission today is pretty clear. Cut through all that noise. We're here to try and separate the solid technical evidence, the benchmarks, from, the speculation. We want to make sure you walk away with actionable knowledge about what this new model actually means for you.
Yeah, the significance here is, it's massive, and you really need to put it in context. We were already pretty impressed with Gemini 2.5 Pro back in March, right? That model really pushed advanced reasoning, but 3.0 feels like Google is really throwing down the gauntlet. They're speeding up their whole development cycle. It's not just tweaking things. It feels like them saying, okay, we're back in the game and we're setting the pace now.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this then. If it's such a huge deal, why the quiet start? Why no big keynote yet? We should probably start with the basics.
Yep.
How's this actually rolling out? How are people getting their hands on it right now?
Well, it looks like the classic strategic soft launch. Some people are even calling it a ninja launch, which is kind of fun. Basically, Gemini 3.0 Pro is being pushed out selectively, starting with their most, let's say, invested users, specifically Gemini Advanced subscribers. They're the first wave, the field testers, really. So if you are an advanced user listening now, you might have already gotten that little notification, something like, we have updated you from the previous model to 3.0 Pro, our smartest model to date. It's a smart way to do it competitively, get that real-world feedback, build some loyalty before the big media splash happens.
And for everyone listening who's maybe planning projects around this, we do have some leaked timelines. It suggests this quiet phase won't last long. The internal calendar leaks seem to point to an official global announcement on October 22nd, 2025. That's just, days away now? Then the public rollout for, general users is rumored to follow super quickly, maybe late October. But developers might need a little more patience. API access is speculated to roll out more gradually, maybe November into December. And for that really deep integration, especially in things like Pixel hardware, we're probably looking at early 2026.
Right. And if you look at that timeline, strategically, the speed is just everything. Google's moving way faster than we've seen with previous big model updates. They know OpenAI's GPT-5 is coming. They know Anthropic's Claude 4.5 is on the horizon. So this feels like Google's showing they're willing to seriously accelerate their cycle to keep that edge. It's turning the whole AI race into more of a continuous sprint, less of a marathon.
Okay, so let's shift from the when and how to the what. What does this model actually do better? The biggest buzz seems to be around this philosophical shift, something they're calling integrated reasoning. Sounds a bit like jargon, maybe, but apparently it tackles a major user headache.
Yeah, it's definitely the key feature people are talking about. And it's kind of the difference between, say, just an assistant and a truly autonomous agent.
Yeah.
Before, if you gave an LLM a really complex task, you often had to sort of push it along, right? You'd prompt it like, okay, first, summarize this document. Then, using that summary, think step by step to draft a proposal. You were basically managing the reasoning process yourself.
Right, like driving an old manual car versus one of these newer autonomous ones. You're doing all the clutch work, the gear shifting, the heavy cognitive lifting yourself.
Exactly that analogy. With 3.0, the claim is that reasoning is native. The model thinks in depth without you needing to spell out every single step. Imagine a complex scenario. You upload a 10-page legal brief, maybe your last 5 internal emails on the topic, and a transcript from a client call. And you just ask, okay, draft a reply hitting the main legal points, but soften the tone based on the client's hesitation in that meeting, and also check the internal emails for any existing agreements we mentioned.
Wow, okay, that does sound different. It's like instructing a really clued-in intern, not just a chatbot. You're trusting the AI to figure out the connections between all those different documents without you micromanaging how it processes them. That could really simplify the whole prompt engineering side of things, couldn't it?
It absolutely could, and that kind of intelligence seems to be showing up in its multimodality, too. Another big headache for, power users has always been memory retention. Gemini 3.0 seems to be tackling what some call the Monday morning problem.
The Monday morning problem. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, you know that feeling. You start your week, you open up your AI chat, and you have to spend the first 5 prompts just reminding it what on earth you were discussing last Friday. Well, sources are suggesting 3.0 can handle eternal conversations. We're talking potentially hundreds, maybe even thousands of prompts deep without losing track of key details. That's a massive leap for anyone using AI for long-term project management or complex workflows.
Okay, that kind of deep memory, combined with its visual analysis, that opens up some really fascinating real-world uses, right?
Yeah.
Our sources were highlighting its ability to analyze really long videos with quite surprising depth.
Yeah, think about the professional uses there. It's not just about summarizing a quick 1-minute clip anymore. We're talking potentially analyzing an hour-long surgical recording for anomalies, or the popular example people are using. Upload an hour of your gym session.
Right.
And with really specific granular feedback on subtle shifts in your squat form, or maybe the biomechanics of your golf swing. It's not just seeing the video, it's understanding the movement, the kinetics within it.
And for the developers listening, the coding improvements seem pretty notable too. Especially, I noticed, in generating things like SVG code. Why is that specific detail actually important?
Ah, right. Well, that's kind of the devil in the details, isn't it? Lots of previous models got pretty good at spitting out general code snippets, but they often struggled with tasks needing really high precision, especially geometric or spatial tasks. SVG Code's scalable vector graphics is basically about generating complex vector paths. It's not just sequential logic, it needs a real grasp of spatial relationships. So the fact that it's reportedly generating complex SVG with high precision, that's a strong signal that 3.0 might have a genuinely deeper, more sophisticated understanding of logic and space, not just programming syntax.
Okay. If these confirmed capabilities are real, that definitely adds some weight to the other rumors swirling around. What are the whispers about features that maybe aren't fully confirmed yet?
Well, the most exciting rumor, I think, is about a true agent mode. This wouldn't just be processing a prompt. It would mean the model could actively manage multi-step tasks, tasks that might need external tools or involve complex back-and-forth decisions. Think about it potentially eliminating those frustrating moments where you have to restart a whole process because one step failed or it needed to do 3 things in sequence. And related to that, we're hearing buzz about much better, more human-like intent comprehension. So if your prompt is a bit vague, maybe you ask for a funny story, the model apparently won't just guess what you mean. It might actually ask a clarifying question like, sure, what kind of humor do you prefer? Observational slapstick. That shifts the interaction from just reactive to something more like, well, genuine collaboration.
Right. Okay, if the model really is that smart, we absolutely need to pivot to the hard data. This is where the hype meets reality, isn't it? What benchmarks, what evidence makes any of these claims actually verifiable?
Exactly. And this is where, yeah, it gets really interesting because we are starting to see some concrete numbers leak out. Early testing data is apparently showing Gemini 3.0 Pro achieving a pretty measurable 20% jump in overall performance compared to its predecessor, Gemini 2.5.
Okay, 20% sounds massive, obviously.
Okay.
But is that like 20% better across everything? Or is it 20% on some specific, maybe optimized lab tests? We know benchmarks can sometimes be, well, gamed a bit.
That's the absolutely critical question to ask. The sources suggest this is a more general uplift that shows up in real-world use, especially in coding and reasoning tasks. And for comparison against rivals, we're seeing some early, maybe unofficial test results suggesting 3.0 Pro might already be outperforming Anthropic's current Claude Sonnet 4.5, at least in certain complex coding challenges. And looking just at efficiency, how fast it works, data from places like Skywork.ai seems to confirm that 3.0 resolves complex coding problems somewhere between 15 to 25% faster than even strong open source models like Llama 3. That's a real quantifiable time saving for developers, especially if you're paying per token or per compute hour, right?
And the verification seems to be going beyond just spade and code accuracy. We're hearing about these more abstract metrics like a humanity score that honestly sounds like something straight out of science fiction or a philosophy class.
It does sound a bit out there, I agree, but it actually points towards a really serious and frankly necessary effort in AI alignment. Unverified leaks are suggesting a pretty substantial, like 32.4% improvement in these so-called humanity benchmarks. And importantly, these metrics aren't just pulled out of thin air. They're apparently inspired by some rigorous academic papers presented at NeurIPS 2024. That's the big Neural Information Processing Systems conference.
NeurIPS.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. For listeners who might not follow academia closely, NeurIPS is basically the top-tier conference for cutting-edge machine learning research. So if these ethical metrics are being validated or inspired by work presented there, that does suggest Google is trying to apply some real academic rigor to these claims about responsibility.
Exactly. These scores are meant to evaluate things like ethical reasoning, contextual understanding, basically checking not just if the model can answer a question, but if it can reason about the potential social or moral consequences of that answer. The goal is to ensure the model isn't just incredibly fast and powerful, but also, responsible in what it generates.
Which brings us back nicely to that
Yeah.
integrated reasoning feature, doesn't it? It's about understanding the why and the potential impact, not just the what.
Precisely. And one final point on the data side. The underlying architecture itself is part of the story. It's described as this efficient hybrid design that tightly integrates the vision and language parts of the model. That integration is predicted to put it right at the top in future evaluations, like the CVPR 2025 Video Understanding Benchmarks. CVPR, the big computer vision conference, is where visual processing models are really put through their paces. This new architecture supposedly minimizes information loss between seeing something and reasoning about it in language. That makes it exceptionally good at processing detailed visual information over long durations, like that hour-long gym video example we talked about.
Okay, that's a really impressive picture on the capability front. But that kind of power inevitably brings us to the flip side. The scrutiny, the challenges.
Hmm.
Powerful tech always raises serious questions. So what does all this mean for the average user, beyond just getting faster answers?
Yeah, this definitely brings up some critical challenges. Things like access, data privacy, and accountability are going to be huge.
Let's start with access. You mentioned this super powerful model is currently only for premium subscribers, Gemini Advanced users.
Mhm.
If this performance gap is as big as it sounds, isn't Google risking creating a kind of, I've seen people call it an AI Stone Age for free users?
That's a really serious concern, yeah. The difference between having a model with native reasoning and near perfect memory versus one you constantly have to prompt and remind, that becomes a massive productivity gap. Google's going to face pressure to be transparent about how much of this new capability eventually trickles down to the free tier. Otherwise, yeah, that divide between what you can afford and the AI power you can access could widen pretty dramatically.
And what about data privacy? With this deeper integrated reasoning, the AI isn't just looking at one input, it's synthesizing information across potentially all your inputs, code, video uploads, long chat histories.
Exactly. This pushes the conversation beyond just basic data security into something more like deep data synthesis protection. The more effectively the AI reasons across all your varied personal and professional data, the stronger those security and privacy guarantees absolutely have to be. How will Google ensure that this increased power to connect dots doesn't inadvertently compromise user data, given the fine-grained detail the model can now apparently extract and understand? That's a key question they'll need to answer.
And finally, let's circle back to the ethical side. We talked about those promising humanity benchmarks. But as you know better than anyone, benchmarks coming from the company itself are never the full story. What does the wider research community really need to see to feel confident?
Yeah, absolutely. We need independent, peer-reviewed accountability. While the NER IPS inspiration is definitely a positive sign, the sources rightly emphasize the need for more published papers from outside researchers, verifying that this AI isn't just smart, but also genuinely responsible and aligned with human values. The debates within groups like the ACM about what effective AI alignment even means are still ongoing. Google will likely be under considerable pressure to open up this model's workings for broader academic scrutiny beyond their internal tests. So I guess summing it up, the verdict seems pretty clear for now. Gemini 3.0 Pro really looks like Google making a strong claim for dominance, especially in multimodal AI. The features we're hearing about native reasoning, the eternal memory, the coding efficiency, these seem to solve actual real-world problems for advanced users. And the early benchmarks, while needing more verification, do seem to back up a lot of the hype.
So the immediate takeaway for listeners, if you happen to be a Gemini Advanced user, maybe check your notifications or settings. You might already be using this next-gen assistant without even realizing it. It could genuinely change your daily routine, whether that's debugging tricky code faster or just having an assistant that finally remembers what you were talking about last week. But maybe here's one final thought for you to chew on, kind of building on that pressure we mentioned these companies are under. If the pace of these AI updates really means that foundational models like this become almost obsolete every 6 months or so, what does that incredibly rapid constant evolution mean for the long-term stability and reliability of all the data, the knowledge, the workflows we're starting to entrust to these platforms? Something to think about until, well, the next quantum leap, I suppose.